in one day. Baby, I hope I'm doing well. I'm here. Just got up for about a good 20 minutes. And it's going to be a little warm today. And so, either way, I'm up and I said, oh my God, I want to get on YouTube. I was going to get on there yesterday, but I ended up, I was going to like do the whole shebang for y'all, style my hair, do all the good teeth for y'all. But I said, whatever. Got some readings lined up today, and so that's what I'm going to be doing. And maybe a little time before I can come on and maybe see who's available and do, like a free reading. So there's several things I wanted to talk about today. Of course, the first thing I want to say is Wonder Medic. Hello, where you at? Okay, I sent an email last week. I haven't got a response yet. Wonder Medic, what's going on? Lisa. Anyway, so several things I want to say. I'm going to really keep it within 8:45. We'll try to do 30 minutes, 9:15, so that way I can get my day going by 9:30. So, Bernard, is it Bernard Duran? Yeah. Uh, the guy, well, we're not going to say the talented musician who actually won a Grammy, and people are kind of gagging at his Grammy. Um, I think he's intelligent. I think he's spiritually inclined. And of course, he kind of, set some records straight, no pun intended, recently. And if you have not seen this, y'all, definitely look this up where he interviews, and this has been coming up a lot to y'all, but he interviewed, well, he was being interviewed, but he just so ended up asking Joe Budden, was he bisexual? And Joe Budden confirmed that he was not bisexual. And of course, Joe Budden explained to him that he was a little jealous that a lot of gay or bisexual people was getting attention. So he felt like he had to lie to say he was this way to get the clout and the attention he needed. And I mentioned this before, and of course, I'm glad that it's kind of coming to the light because, of course, in the past, I was deemed this anti-trans, anti-gay, individual, and I'm not. I just know bullshit when I see bullshit, and I really speak on bullshit. And so sometimes, to the untrained eye and mind, when bullshit is talked about or lies and deceit is uncovered, it looks like the person who's speaking about it is hateful, anti this, anti that, but that's not the case. And of course, people are entitled to their opinions, and I'm gonna, keep it there in those terms, but in those regards. But going into that, he also clarified in his interview the difference between heterosexuality and being straight. And I was even having this conversation with a sister of mine who's a part of the LGBT community, and I spoke that I do think there's a difference between homosexuality, or excuse me, heterosexuality and straight. Just like I think there's a difference between homosexuality and gay. Just like I think there's a difference between transsexualism or transsexuality and transgenderism. According to what I've researched, and that's the Harry Benjamin Standard of Care, that all LGBTQ people are transgendered. What happened is, as a social construct, and that's why interchangeably I would say transgender. And I'm like, oh my God, that's not the right term. Right. And of course, it was just come out because, of course, society, the things we watch, they influence us. And so, of course, people would say transgender, because they didn't understand what transsexual was. They would think that, transsexual meaning you were like bisexual and stuff. And of course, that has happened where, people would approach me and I'll say, I'm a transsexual. And they'd be like, wait, what does that mean? You like guys and girls and, all that. And so either way, I do think there's a difference between heterosexuality and straight. And even like said, Bernard mentioned that being straight is a social construct. Just like I think being gay is a social construct. Just like I think being transgender is a social construct. And if you look through history and you look at a lot of the things, y'all, even as gay people, even as LGBTQ people, if you look at history, and that's why we are so big on these alphabets. They're so big on LGBT, lesbian, gay, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, baby, you like what you like, you are what you are, and let's keep it pushing. I even talked about it with the term butch and stud, which in my mind is interchangeably. And of course, lesbian friends said they were like, no, it's not. And I'm like, okay, let me educate myself. And I found out I was actually behind some racial stuff. And so I'm just like, there's a lot, what a lot, what a lot, what a lot. And I'm glad that this is somebody who is clearly very LGBTQ friendly. Clearly, it's for the people, and he's not doing it for the clout. He's not doing it to get a reward. He's not doing it to get a reward. He's not doing it to get some type of cash flow or any of that, because clearly he has heterosexual people that support him as well. He's speaking his truth. And that's what I be saying too, like, honey, I guess it'd be the right message, but the wrong messenger sometime. Because I've always said, like, baby, and then going into the homosexuality versus gay, a lot of straight men rage, what they call gay rage, or no, gay bait. Yeah. Rage is arguing. So they gay bait, which means they'll pose like they're gay. They'll do gay stuff, but they're really straight. There's two people on IG right now that I'm aware of that are scared. And that's how we thinking too, y'all. And I'm gonna say this on the side as a side note. Like sometimes I be torn because I befriended people and I think they're really nice, cool people. But on the flip side to it, and I had to realize, I had to educate myself on this term, because I'm like I know people that are nice, that are sweet, but they're fucked up people in a sense of they break the law. They do things that are, criminalistic, and they don't respect authority. And to me, it's a little scary. And I've told y'all many examples, and of course, I could break that down for you guys here, because you'll be like, how is that possible? But it's called pro social offender. And so they're really, really nice to people, and they're for the community, and they're for this and for that. But when it comes to the flip side of things, they don't mind breaking laws, breaking rules. They don't mind kind of doing what they want to do. And even in a sense to where if they feel offended or they feel like somebody has done something to wrong them, all nices go out the window. Now they want to kind of teach people a lesson. And of course, that goes into antisocial behavior. But like I said, I'd be torn, because they say you are what you deal with, you are what you hang with. And so it's like I met some real sweet people throughout all my years of knowing people. And then when you find out other things about them, it's like, damn, like if I would have knew this up front, I'm not saying it would have deterred our friendship, because that's personal issues that these people are dealing with. But it's like, fuck, man. Like I'm somebody who respects authority. Like I'm somebody who is, I'm not gonna say afraid of authority, but I respect authority. Like when it comes to the law, when it comes to like doing what's right is doing wrong, like I respect that. And there's even times I've dealt with people that I felt like maybe I'm the fucked up person, but it's like, oh, I'm fucked up because I speak my truth. I'm fucked up because I don't kiss ass. I'm fucked up because I don't have two sides to me. Like what you see is what you get. And that's what a lot of people, that's a hard pill for a lot of people to digest. Where people be like, you give tough love. And it's like, but I give realness, though. It doesn't matter if there's tough or not. I give realness. Like, I'm not going to sit and say I'm for people freedom, but I'm doing things that are gonna put me behind bars, or doing other things that could put people behind bars. Like in my mind, I never understood that, right? And so like I said, I've always felt torn, and I think in 2026 era, like I've really questioned it. Like, damn, so like, am I just cool with these people? Because I can't really say like we're friends in the sense of like you are what you hang around with, and and maybe that's something that I want to deep dive in, this year, personally. with my therapist and stuff, because I'm like, baby, like, it be having you question some shit like, honey, little minor stuff like forgetting to pay my taxes, or little minor stuff to where, let's say I live in a place and you sign a lease agreement and they tell you, okay, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. There's times where I've accidentally done things outside of my leasing terms, and of course, I've got warned about it, but I instantly corrected it. I know people that will literally have rules given to them of what they can do and what they cannot do, and they'll still do it. And then I'm thinking like, well, I mean, I'm like, well, that's minor compared to the other laws they're breaking and the other shit they're doing that's kind of fucked up. So it's kind of like, but damn, you know what I mean? Like it just, I like I say, I be feeling torn. And so, like I said, either way, I'm so glad that Bernard, literally said what he said about straightness, and a lot of people will try to play the straight role, and then secretly they're gay, and then vice versa. Some people be gay and they be pretend to be straight, and then like I said, going into the whole gay baiting, there are men there's two people I know, as I was getting into before, I say, you know what, that is so crazy. I can't even say friends. I just say I know, because I would never do that. I would never like play, in the adult world. I'll never play like I'm into women. I'll never play like I'm into other trans. Like I wouldn't do that for money. Like I wouldn't do that for free, so I wouldn't do it for money neither. Like I said, that's not what I'm into, right? And so people have done it. People do it. There's people that will play this role and be like, "Oh, I'm Diane." It's like, baby, are there any real people anymore? Like are just is I mean, I know the answer already, but I'm just asking collectively. Like, are there any people that really just stand in their truth and be who they are and don't care if people accept it or like it? Like, is there any more people that will be honest with you and tell you how it is, even if it hurts your feelings, and say, you know what, I'll do damage control after I make this statement, versus, well, I don't want to say it because this might be offensive. And it's like, well, if anybody get offended because you tell them that, the way that they act or the way they do things is a little offensive to other people, then they're the problem, clearly, not you. So it's just like, it's a lot with a lot. And like I said, he mentioned those things, and I was like, it's good to see. It's a breath of fresh air to see a fellow member of an alternative lifestyle stand on, and what he says, like, I'm not really convinced that everybody who say what they are is what they are, because clearly it's not true. And we've known, even with the word trade and stuff, that there's people that will play a lifestyle for a particular reason. And of course, that's different from who you like in your bedroom, y'all. I think there's a difference between being DL, or living under that social construct of being DL, versus actually being somebody who is very private and discreet. I think as a trans person, I'm very proud of who I am as me, as a collective. Like, my transition is not other people's transition. So what I eat don't make them poop, and what they eat don't make me poop. And so in the sense of, for me, I'm very content and very confident in who I am and what it is I represent. When it comes to being a part of other groups of people that may also look like me, that may also be in this, I wouldn't be batting an eye. I wouldn't be standing up, fighting for, crusading for, protesting for, because I see things different from people that are within this. And like I said, going into the whole social construct, I see that every year, every decade, every so often, they're trying to change terms and all that. And that's the first thing too, y'all, because we go into religion, and I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, and I don't give a fuck if you don't want to hear it, because we're going to speak about it. They say that God is is forever remaining the same, and people never understand that. But even going into anything, let's say in a perspective of God is authentic, God is biologic, God is original, and everything outside of God is artificial and it's a duplicate. So it is saying that anything that is authentic, anything that is original, it never changes. And so with that being said, if you are LGBT, we don't just add on alphabets and take alphabets out because 20 years later a psychologist decided to say, well, there's not just any more man like a man and woman like woman. There's men that identify as cows, but they also like sheets and goats. So we're gonna call them a zomophobia. Like, girl, like that does not change if it is original. And of course, people say, "Well, look at the black kettle calling the kettle black." Is that what they said? Or the kettle calling the kettle black? Look at this. This is somebody who was born anatomically male who transitioned. No, no, no. Sexuality and gender. There's always been people that's been in between. There's always been an in-between gender. There's always been something that's been male, female, and in between. You have women that are, clearly women anatomically, but they got some, biological equipment missing. And that doesn't make them less of a woman. And even going into a man, there are men who are born with biological pieces missing or not fully developed. And that doesn't take away from that. And so, like I said, there are things in the middle. I'm going into that there was homosexuality, and then you get into, and homosexuality is for thousands of years, and then all of a sudden these psychologists and these scientists, who I think is nothing but cash grabs, because of course it gets boring after a while if you really think about it. If everybody keeps going to the same doctors and the same therapists for the same reason over and over again, eventually that industry is going to dry up. So they have to come up with new terms, new definition, so people can say, "Oh my God, I've always felt like this." And now they're making money off of it. So for me, it's a cash grab situation. And this is why we have psychologists and therapists who are probably not even LGBT at all. They're probably not even about that lifestyle, but they want to be a part of it because they want that check. And as I mentioned before in 2017, and that's why I brought all this up, and I stand on what I say, being gay, queer, bi, trans, lesbian is profitable in many ways. In 2017, we saw this come into effect. And so when 2017 happened, everybody and their mama jumping on the motherfucking bandwagon. But when it came down to being checked and being what they say, your I's being dotted and your T's being crossed, people wanted to step out the limelight. Or they were like, "Well, I mean, I was always gay, but I just act like I wasn't." Or I never knew what to call it. And it's like, we can all say that though. We can all say, like, "I don't know what you call somebody like me. So instead of me being a he or a she, I am a goldenism." And now you gotta respect that pronoun for me, because I don't identify as he or she, them or they. I want to be considered a god or a goddess. So now you gotta call me, my pronoun is goddess or goldeniva, girl, if you want to get into it, or goldiva. And girl, you would have to respect her, or I'm taking you out of court. You see what I mean? So it's like authentic stuff never changes. And of course, when it is a cash grab, and we go into Afro-American, African-American, colored, black, Negro, these are also cash grabbing or terms that have been backed up by some type of funding. Because we could talk about the NAACP and their money and their profit that they get from the government. And girl, we still got issues, girl. We had y'all out here protesting against Black Lives Matters and stuff, while NAACP was still getting their money. And so, like I said, I don't want to get too deep into it because that wasn't the conversation I want to bring about today. I just want to say that, a lot of people got envious and jealousy of certain communities and certain people within the community. And now everybody want to jump on the bandwagon. So they would say, "I'm gay, I'm gay, I'm gay," but they will still fuck vagina. That is not gay. They will say, I'm les, I'm les, I'm les," but they will still suck one and ride on a peen. That is not lesbian. They would say they are transgender, which means they have some type of gender dysphoria, which means that they were born anatomically male or female, and they do not feel comfortable with representing that energy. So they're going to do everything that they can on the other side of that, in layman's terms, to not do that. But when they transition into being a woman, because they said I always felt like a woman, but then they over here fucking on a woman, that means you are a lesbian trapped in a man's body. Who always say that? Straight men. I've never heard a LGBT person, or where they would say, I never heard a gay or a trans person up until after 2017 say that they were a lesbian trapped in a man's body. You always heard straight men say that. "I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body," and they would catfish these women to try to get them laid up and stuff. But nowadays, girl, you got the trans woman doing it, where it's like, so what makes you trans? Because Michael Jackson and Prince were not trans, and they put on women's garments, they put on makeup. You know, they didn't have no life altering, at least we don't know, life altering surgeries to change their sex. So what separate Michael Jackson and Prince from you? If you haven't had no surgeries, you haven't been on any hormones, the name is not probably legally changed, but you just put on girls' clothes. Like, what is the difference? And of course, we get into self proclamations, but we're saying what it is and what it ain't. And so, respectfully, like I said, I've always loved Bernard. Duran, Bernard. Damn, I can't get his name right. But I listen, he got a song called Stuck. What is it? Can I get stuck in love with you? Baby, that song I've been bumping since 2020? 2021? Okay, his songs are very catchy, very interesting, and this is not a promo or anything. I just want to speak on this because, baby, like I said, me seeing that yesterday, or the replay from it, it made me say, damn, honey. So I do got other LGBT, even though I don't be feeling like it sometimes, because you know I have my lesbian friends be in agreement, but the trans friends and the gay friends, honey, they be seeming like they be having issue with what I be saying. Where I be like, girl, maybe you are the motherfucking problem, because what is right is right, what is wrong. And baby, you can't be like, well, I mean, I do see it, but I don't see it because it's kind of like, well, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, girl. You don't really, you're not really giving, you're not really, you don't have a horse in the fight anyway. That's what, bottom line, because I don't want to get into offending anybody. But you don't got a horse in the fight anyway. You know what I mean? Like, if there's no medical procedures, like if you're saying you're transsexual, and there's just between transsexual and transgender, and even intersex, we can even say that respectfully. There's three different categories. So intersex, you were born in your medical documents even before you decided what you wanted to be. They have down that this is, underdeveloped male or whatever the case may be. However, they work that on your documentation. Then you have, of course, the actual transsexuals that, psychologically, they don't feel male. They don't do anything male that remind them being their male self. They don't like it. They don't like to be called their male name. They don't like to even see their male name. They don't want to be identified as their male name. They don't want to be called sir. Anything that makes them look like a man, sound like a man, whatever, they try to stay away from. It makes them uncomfortable. Then you have the ones on the south of that, which we're going to call transgenders, which don't really care. As long as they can look like the woman, as long as they can feel like a woman, that's all they care about. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with any of this. I'm just putting this out in layman's terms for people to understand there is three different eras of this. I feel like the first, the transgender energy, I feel like when it comes to transsexual and all that stuff, like the transsexuals, like I feel like we definitely, and intersex too, because I'm going to use that both hand and all that good stuff, because of course, documentally, medically, I am considered intersex, and it's this doctor medical record, okay, not me just saying it. I feel like we really do have a dog in a race, or what's the horse in a race to fight, because it's like, this is our life, and this is until the day we die. Like, a lot of us have had surgeries, or we have procedures that we cannot reverse. Like, it's permanent. But the ones that are kind of like, you haven't had the surgery, you haven't had the name change, you haven't even like really put into the effort outside of just putting on the hair, putting on the makeup, and I mean, that's for even, not even all of them. But still, like, you can really go back to being a man at any time, every day. Like, girl, it'll be quick for you to go back. No shade. So your fight is not the same as our fight. If you haven't had no irreversible surgeries, you haven't had any type of legal name change, anything, birth certificate being altered or any of that legally, by the way, you cannot sit here and say, I'm for trans rights, because you want the privilege, not the rights, right? Or not the fight. You want the privilege. You basically are piggybacking off the people that actually put in that work. You want to get the same rights as them. And of course, I'm sure I'm wording all this stuff wrong, but you know what I'm saying. Like, girl, could you imagine you going through the fight, you starving yourself? Could you imagine just being a real war, a real battle? You're putting in, you got battle wounds and shit from you because, bitch, you got fired because you were a so-called man living a life as a woman and going to work as a motherfucking woman, looking like a motherfucking woman, and people clocking and docking what you are and what you're not, and putting you in motherfucking danger. And, bitch, you get motherfucking war rooms as an example, having fucking battle wounds and shit, and you have these people that just jump on and say, well, I think I want to live this life too. Girl lived their whole life as a male up until a certain point, and now they want to jump on and say, "But we in the same boat, sis. And my sis, and my sis, and my sis, and my sis." No, baby. Respectfully, we not sisters. Respectfully, baby. No, baby. Respectfully, girl. I see you over there, and I'm over here. And you know I'm talking about collectively, girl, because they be like, girls. Oh, I would hate when random fucking LGBT people be like, sis. No, baby. I'm not your sis, hun. Respectfully, girl. We not the same, hun. And surgery can make people look better. It is what it is, girl. Because a lot of people get surgery, especially with medical and stuff, are proven the surgeries and stuff. Girl, you got people that will never be on hormones getting surgeries and shit, girl. You got hoes getting FFSs and all this shit, girl. They're male today. They go to the doctor, and in 3 months, girl, they got a whole nother face and shit. So, girl, like I said, that ain't nothing, girl. No shade. What she look more, yeah, girl, that's medical surgery. No shade. No shade, honey. And like I said, I'm not putting it down. I'm just saying, I speak my truth. We love, like I said, we love St. Bernard. We're gonna keep it there. We love St. Bernard. I love what he said. It's a construct, and it's a construct. I've always said that. Like I said, it's good to see that. Going into the whole pro-social offender stuff, y'all. Which, like I said, I was really thinking about this yesterday in the midst of all this stuff, and I was having a conversation with a sister of mine, where I was all like, it's interesting where you have people. Hold on, let me turn. Hold on, let me turn this fan. It's interesting where you have people out there turn this fan from blowing in my damn face, honey. It's gonna dry up my nose. It's different, or I would say it's a little weird when you have people who, it's like I said, very sweet, very, nice. They're nice to you. They're nice to people. They think about the people. They're like, oh my God, I'm worried about these people. Maybe there's even problems that are not their problems they want to fight for. And then when you really think about them, though, it's like, damn, they fight for other people's rights before they fight for their rights. They'll be more concerned about people getting married and people living their life happily than they care about their own. And then you start even thinking about it, where you're like, yeah, they really are nice, sweet people, and I would trust them in blah, 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 and then you start thinking about their life, and you're like, damn. But the person said they went to jail when they were 12 years old for stealing out of a store. And then 5 years later, they went to jail for the same crime. And then 5 years later, went to jail for the same crime. And then they stopped doing that crime, then it got a little bigger. And then, of course, after that, and even going into like other, like I said, there's people that have rules. Like for me, when you rent from a place, when you buy from a place, that's authority. Like if somebody is renting from something, y'all, and I always think about this too. I have property and I'm renting to somebody and I don't drink, I don't smoke, or I want to keep my property clean and organized, and I found out that you're like damaging my property, I'm gonna be very pissed. And so I think about that with me being, a renter or whatever. Like I think about, like, I wouldn't like put holes in my wall. I wouldn't just paint my walls, yellow, blue, and orange, because of course they wouldn't want that. And I'll be mad if it was me. And I tell people, no, you cannot paint without my permission. Then I come here and I find out you got purple walls and shit. I'll be pissed. But like I said, I know people, and of course I give you three different examples. I know people that the lease will say you can have no animals, and they'll have a dog, a cat, a feral. They'll have a ferret. They'll have guinea pigs. They'll have this, have that. And then when the landlord find out, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so upset because the landlord found out I have these animals, and now they're giving me 30 days." And it's just like, but duh, like the lease said that. So why would you be so shocked about that? And clearly you knew that. That's why you were sneaking in. Going into another situation, someone in California, period. I know, as one of my sisters, she's a homeowner. somebody smoked in the room, and when they got ready to remodel the house, they had to rip out all of the walls. Y'all, like they had to gut the walls out. They had to knock down the sheetrock. They had to take out the insulation because the smoke gets into the walls. And so even in California now, they have a law in many of the counties that you cannot smoke within your building. You cannot smoke within your dwelling, including vape, because vape is moisture. So it really fucks up shit. And I know somebody who literally, well, actually, I know two people. One person vapes, one person smokes. And well, actually, I think the smoke, I think they stopped smoking in their house actually, because I think they got written up for that. Wait a minute. But either way, it'll say that and they still do it. And it's like, but what's so hard for you not to follow that law? But then, you think about the other shit that they possibly do that breaks the law, where you're like, oh, they just don't give a fuck. They just have a nonchalant, I don't care about authority and respect authority. And so I'm like, I feel like that's like sociopath, psychopath, sociopath tendencies. And then of course, I'm, talking about it and they're like, no, it's called pro-social offenders. And I'm like, oh my God. So it's kind of like a two-faced energy. Like, I'm going to act like I'm this, and that, but I'm not this, and that. And it even be like a hypocrite, because there's people that break the laws, right? Let's say, for a good example, like human rights. Like, you take away human rights, that would be against the law. Like you saying, hey, I think it's fucked up for a woman to not be able to do what she want to do to her own body. Or, hey, I think it's illegal for a man to not be able to do what he want to do to his body. That would be illegal. That would be going against human rights. And some people will be against that. But it'd be the same people that would be against that, and they need to be locked up because they're this or they're that. But it's like, but what are you doing that's illegal? What have you done that is illegal? So the light, that's why I say, and I continue to say too, bitch, if I don't have no dog in the fight, I shut up. Bitch, I step out of it. I'm like, honey, I ain't got shit to say, because what this bitch or this person speaking about, I'm kind of a part of that. What this person is saying, hey, I will be guilty of that, so I can't say shit. But like I said, I love when people, was jumping in on T. And like I said, I didn't think about any of this y'all until yesterday when I was thinking of this pro-social personality shit, where I was like, yeah, people were jumping on it and this is fucked up. And I really thought it was cruel. I really think it's cruel. But of course, I don't think about it because it's just that it'd be a lot. But then you're looking at people who do think about it, and I'm like, but I should be obsessed with the shit because I really don't break the law. I mean, like, there's nothing. If I had to go be seen in front of this person or these groups of people, what would they possibly lock me up for or fine me for? And then the ones that are for, hey, they should be punished. They should be locked up for not paying their taxes. It's like, so should you be locked up for sneaking all those animals into your place? Should you be locked up for smoking or vaping in your house even though they said you can't? Should you be locked up for threatening to expose people because they don't want to fuck with your body? Like, these are things that come up. And like I said, I was really on that yesterday, y'all, where I was like, this is really some different shit. And I've learned that they said a democracy. I'm like, no, we live in a hypocrisy. That's what we live in. We live in a hypocrisy. We don't live in a democracy, girl. We live in a hypocrisy where people will be like, that's not fair. And this should be illegal. And this fucker. And this person. It's like, but you don't think what you've done or what you do is the same energy? Because right is right and wrong is wrong. So if they're using fear tactics to get you to do certain things, don't you do fear taxes to do certain things, to get people to do certain things? And so, like I said, here's just things I thought about yesterday. And I said, honey, let me come and let me talk to my people about the Bernard interview where he talks about gay and heterosexual being two, or excuse me, heterosexual and gay being, heterosexual and straight being two different things. I mean, I think he does identify as a hetero flexible. And to me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, that's kind of some weird shit too. But like I said, it is what it is, girl. I mean, girl, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, girl. Tomato, potato, girl. If you love it, I like it. Or if you like it, I love it. Girl, it ain't in my house. I don't gotta see it. He not my man. You know what I mean? He's not somebody I gotta see all the time, every day on a day, because baby, that will probably be a problem. And we'll be knocking heads. Because I'll be like, girl, hetero flexible. Just because you're part of the brainwashing of what a man should be in America, and I feel like that's put on by a lot of people of color, because white folks, they don't feel like they got anything to prove, respectfully, and so it is what it is. That's why you don't really see that many white transgenders out there, and when you do, they really really live they part their truth. You don't really see white bisexual people like that. And if you do, baby, it's more so, for clout or something like that. But you don't, they're not making a scene. Everybody else, girl, the DL lifestyle has been exploited, and it's saying most of it is when they think of DL, they think of a black man going into the whole transgender thing. Like I said, there's just a lot that is exploited and put out there. And I feel like it's part of a social construct of some sort. And it is what it is. And so you know what they say, keep living your life, keep being you, and like what you like, don't like what you don't like. And if you don't like what I like, uh, then we don't got to be around each other. I'm okay with that, girl. There's 8 billion people in the world, and girl, you make peace. I will never fake or be anything I'm not, just to be cool with people or to establish something. Okay, who you doing? Anyway, come on in here. Maraso, what is it? Maraso. Oh, Mirasol. Oh, that's a sunflower. Hello, sunflower. Me Khalif. Stop talking. What you mean the people are here? I don't know what that mean by that. I don't know what you mean by that, baby. Anyway, go off. I'm done. That's really it, honey. Yeah, honey. Uh, I am gonna be implementing some changes to my channel, and I hope you guys are staying tuned to see what is going on. No, actually, wait, I take it back. Before I fully jump into that, I'm gonna have to do my 2 reading sessions before I get into that. Hmm. Before I completely alter my tea, I gotta get into two reading sessions for sure. It might be 3. It might be a 3-for-1 combo. It might be 3-for-1 combo. It might be a 3-for-1. We're gonna see what the Holy Spirit allow me to do. Ow! Okay. And so, oh my God, this tablet came out of the damn. Yeah. Anyway, y'all. Bye for now. Love and light. Thank you so much for stopping by me to solve for the 4 thumbs up. Honey, y'all take care. Y'all have a great day. twospiritmystic.blogspot.com. And of course, 28spirit8mystic@gmail.com. Like I said, we do have readings for today. And, I confirm my initial reading. If we have a rebook or reschedule, I really confirm. I just will reach out about an hour before. And or you can reach out and make sure I have your contact information, and we go from there. Okay. So yeah, y'all, let me go, honey. And yeah, I hope y'all have a great Wednesday. Y'all, like I said, it's warming up. And now I gotta go put my sunblock on. I gotta go walk my babies. I gotta go do a lot. Girl, I feel like a woman's work is never done. Okay, I feel like a woman's work is never done. You know what I mean? And if I got to, girl, we'll say goddess, but you don't. Oh, you're not a woman. Okay, we'll say goddess work then. Hello. Listen, I'm not fighting with you about a fuck ass thing, honey. Hello. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not a woman, I'm a goddess. Let's get into it. I'm not a man. I'm not a man or a woman, I'm a goddess. Hello? Anyway, bye y'all. Love and light.